Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Noise Brigade. I am Bobby. He is Tom. Today, we're going to bring you what we're not sure if it's going to be a two-parter or a one-parter, but we're going to go for it and see how it goes. This is going to be if we had an unlimited amount of money and could build our dream garage, we were allowed to pick 15 cars. And as usual, because I can't do anything by my own rules, I've added some honorable mentions. I know Tom has as well. Tom, how are you?
I'm good, man. Yeah, this kind of goes back and forth. I think we say this every couple of months, but another good idea, man. Like you said, it's money is no object. What's your dream garage look like? You gave the standard of picking 15 vehicles, but there's some outliers that, maybe they're parked next to the garage.
Right. Right.
So
We never play hard and fast with the rules, but we can go a little bit outside if we need to. I mean, maybe some of these are just sitting in the front yard on cinder blocks.
yeah, and exactly, the funny thing is though, I did this, I'm going through it, and man, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of these I've just been a fan of for such a long time, that it's really, if you think about it, um, it's almost like music. Whenever we've done our music episodes and talking about, we did the one hit wonders, and just look at all the artists and bands we talked about, and it was all stuff that wasn't new. So I think that this kind of falls in the same vein for me. It's like I feel a lot of these I've liked for such a long time, so I don't want to spoil anything necessarily, but I don't have a whole lot of new on my list. So just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. We'd be remiss if we didn't say I'm tagged you in this on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it or not yet, but speaking of music, the Boss Tones broke up.
I did see that, yeah, which is pretty wild. But I remember seeing the one and only time I saw them was in '98. I was 16. I think it was '98. Had to be around then. It was right around the Let's Face It, you know, '98, '99. When was that? What did that come out? '97.
That came out, let's see. It was either 96 or 97 because I was still living in Mickleton when that
Yeah,
record came out.
I remember the when I saw them, they were still doing mostly Let's Face It stuff, and it wasn't that long after. That's why I was saying it was '98, but it could have been '97. I don't really know off the top of my head, but yeah, no, that's crazy, because very reverent ska band, and man, I tell you what, there's a lot of songs there that were just you know hits in my book, and very listenable. I know probably your all time favorite band, so
Yeah, yeah. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to them before we dove in. But with any further ado, do you want to start with the honorable mentions or do you want to start with the list proper?
now let's go honorable mentions. So like these are the cars that didn't necessarily fit in the garage. We're still thinking about. You'll have to do several. I'll just throw one out there just to see, kind of dip the toe in the water and see where your mind was at with this thing. But I went with one of my honorable mentions being a 2019 Ford Taurus SHO.
We have the same car, sir.
No kidding. And one of your honorable mentions.
That's one of my that
Uh,
was the one that I thought of. And so, dude, I really debated putting this in my top 15. Reason being, I had a 2015 Taurus SEL, and I loved it. I loved everything about it except for the infotainment system. And it just so happened that I had the opportunity to get out of it and get into my Challenger. So, I did that. But, dude, I love the Taurus. I absolutely
I
love it. And this being 2019 being the last year, and the SHO is obviously the top tier of that vehicle. I would definitely want that in my yard somewhere.
Yeah, dude. I remember going to a dealership several years ago. I can't remember the year it was offhand, but it was a mid like 2010s model, and it was sharp. It was in the showroom floor. It was all black, pretty much blacked out. I think with exception to the rims, and just the amount of technology inside of it at the time, I thought was pretty amazing. It was really impressive, and you know, uh, that thing has always been known for a good, strong engine. A lot of horses out of that one, but to me, on that one, it's not necessarily that. It's just the aesthetics. It just looks good,
Yeah,
particularly those later models. So That was
Absolutely.
definitely that. So, all right, so we met that one. I only have one other honorable mention, so I'll save it here for a little bit. So, what are some of your other honorable mentions?
So I can go down this list and I'll go down it pretty quickly. So the one that sticks out that's like the one of these things is not like the others. It's going to be the 2013 Mazda Speed 3. It's
Ooh, nice. There you
one of
go.
those little hot hatches, it looks cool. I always made fun of them, but they've grown on me. And so that's one. Um, no list would be complete without a 1983 DeLorean DMC 12. You
Okay,
know,
so yeah, I went there too, and and this is fine because we're gonna have a lot of crossovers here. I went there, but with in my garage actually,
oh,
and
okay.
we all know why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because it was in Ghostbusters.
yeah, that's right. I thought it was in Big.
It might have been in Big too. It was also in Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
That's right. That's right. No,
Yeah.
we all know this one. Yeah, Back to the Future. I chose the 81 model, but I'm not. I think that was it 83. Which one? I don't remember which one was actually used in the movie.
I don't know. I went so on some of these I went with the latest model year that they
Gotcha.
made,
Okay.
like the
Okay.
last one. So that's what I did with the DeLorean is I
Okay.
just went 1983 because it was, the last year they made it.
Okay. I went 81 strictly for Back to the Future. I think that because I looked it up and I'm pretty certain that's what was used, but it's hard to tell because it was so modified.
Right.
Plus, that movie came out in '85, so yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So what? So let's see. I'm gonna cross that one out on my list. What else you got then?
I got a
Honorable mention wise.
1987 Chevy Monte Carlo SS with
Nice,
T-tops.
nice.
Because you got to. That body style was just classic 80s cool. You can't not have that. And especially if we're talking about like in a yard on cinder blocks, dude, yeah, you got to have it. So then we go to a 2006 Chevy SSR.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I just, dude, honestly, so it reminds me of Cup from the original Transformers animated movie, like a futuristic truck. And they made them, I want to say it was like a V8 or a V12 in them. So like they crammed some freaking horsepower in there, and it looked like the future. And I like the retro style cars that look like the future.
Hmm.
So that's on my list. Um, in that same vein, 19 and I have a reason for the year on this one. 1995 Dodge Viper RT. So
Yes. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. This one crossed my mind. I almost threw this in my honorable mentions.
so this one, the reason I picked 95, it came out in 92, and that's the one that I wanted to put on there. And then I remembered that they didn't put air conditioners in them in 92. So I need an air
Ah,
conditioner. I'm not one of those
yeah.
guys. Look, I'm not a small guy. I sweat. I don't like the heat. I need an air conditioner in my car. So even if I had it as a with the convertible top off, I would still have the air conditioner blasting because I'm a fatty. Um, and then to finish out my honorable mentions, I got to go with the very first car that I ever owned, a 1989 Dodge Daytona.
Nice. Nice.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, the one that I had, and part of the reason I'd like to have it is because I'd like to see one that actually runs. Um, one, so the one that I have, it was great when I got it, and I am very grateful for it. My uncle gave it to me. He had gotten it as a trade in at his dealership, and he couldn't sell it because the paint was flaking off. You had to kick the fuse box to get the radio to turn on and the lights inside the cabin and stuff. Sometimes, like it was a pile of garbage. But you know what? It was my car and I could drive it, and it got me where I needed to go, even when the handles were breaking off on the crank windows. So I would just like to have one that was like a good running one, so I could drive it around and just kind of relive that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that makes sense. And I don't have it written down, but I would kind of be the same way. My first actual, driving every day was the '94 Pontiac Sunbird. So, I, I had that car for several years, and it had its issues. Had an ECM, computer issue, and some other things, but I was able to run that for 100,000 miles. You know, from my time because I picked it up, it was already 5 years old. So it gave me another 100,000 miles, and I have fond memories. So I'd love to have same kind of deal. It's like I'd like to have one in pristine condition, maybe even a convertible version. I always thought they were kind of neat looking.
Yeah. Well, that's what was
Um,
cool about mine was, it wasn't the coolest car, but I'll tell you what, it had those pop up headlights.
yes, yeah, yep, yep, yep. That's right. It was very that, and that's one of those things that was very common back then, right
Yeah.
in that late '80s, early '90s time frame. And there's there's some cars. It's funny when you say that, and I think it had pop up headlights. But do you remember the it was the 9091 Cadillac, the Alante, the little convertible?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you
I'm
said
pretty
pop
sure
up
I did.
headlights, and man, I need to look this up now because it's funny. That's why I love doing these because we just kind of spin off and really think about it. I don't know, that one didn't have pop up headlights, but it was yeah, it was that the Cadillac convertible, and I always thought those were cool too, but they were only made for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my honorable mention here, and then I'm gonna have to uh, I'm not say take a break, but I'm gonna have to mention something beer related before we crack into our actual garages here.
Okay.
Because breaking news on the beer front for me anyway. So
Uh,
my last honorable mention is 2017 Holden Commodore, but best known in the States as the Chevy SS. Um,
ooh, okay.
I had, the '09 Pontiac G8 GT, which was essentially the same thing in Australia as the Holden Commodore. Um, Man, that car is just ridiculous. Uh, Big engine, just a sharp sedan. Um, I don't, you know, really know if I could sit there and get the Australian version, but I did that Chevy SS with sharp, and that's all it was. It was just a rebadged Commodore, which is exactly what the G8 was. It was just a rebadged Commodore, so I wrote those are just sharp. But the Chevy SS they only had for a couple of years, so then
Yeah,
they
and that was
stopped.
a beautiful vehicle too.
Yeah, they stopped doing it, But so before we get into our garages, and I'm gonna kind of I'll mind you here that in about a 9 year span, I've tried over 5,100 beers. Okay,
All right.
I'm currently drinking a Deschutes Cherries Jubile Ale. It is a barrel aged winter imperial winter warmer, which I've never heard of before, so it's something they made up. Winter warmers are real style of beer, but I've never heard of a
Oh,
barrel aged imperial winter warmer. I
okay.
be telling you this right now because of the 5,100 plus beers that I've tried in the last almost 10 years. This is one of the 10 worst I've ever had. It's god awful.
So if
I
you could give me a kind of an idea of what the experience is like for you.
First sip was like a Luden's.
Oh, I like them.
Well, you might like this one. I like cherries. I don't like this.
All right, so do this for me. Compare it. You've had Sam Adams cherry wheat, right?
Oh, dude, completely different beer. That's way better.
Okay.
Way
All
better.
right.
Oh yeah. Oh no, no. This tastes like something that should have never been made. It's like the evil spawn of like, hey, let's put together two really weird ideas and see if it works. And it didn't work at all.
Hmm. So that's something. I see. I kind of want to try it now because it sounds like it might be right up my alley because I do like some terrible things. Like, so I was at Farmer Joe's, the new grocery store we got, where I've been able to buy birch beer for not like $35 for 24 pack. Um, and they have all kinds of different beer or different sodas. And I don't remember if I sent it to you or not, but they have some weird sodas there. They have one called Martian Poop. They
Yeah,
have
yeah,
one.
yeah. I saw your picture.
All right. So they have Martian Poop. They have radioactive soda. They have chocolate and bacon. And they had cherry jubilee. And the cherry jubilee is just like bright freaking red. Like, and I kind of want to try it because I'm sure it's going to taste like freaking diabetes. But I kind of want to try it. And now I want to try this awful beer that you have too.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I have disdain for this beer, just like Richie has disdain for Kevin Smith movies after Mallrats.
Oh, nice callback. I like that. Nice callback.
Yeah. So anyway, all right,
All right.
let's
So
get back on
on
the
that
road
note,
here.
yeah, no pun
um,
intended.
yeah, womp womp. All right, so I've already burned through one of mine because you had a similar car. Well, it was not worth mentioning twice, although it's a classic vehicle.
Right.
What's your first one in your garage? And we'll go in no order here. I don't have an order.
Oh yeah,
So
dude. Mine are the only thing I did in order was like I grouped companies together.
okay,
So
gotcha,
like my Pontiacs are together, my Mitsubishis are together, so on and so forth. So
gotcha.
since I already mentioned it, we'll go with Pontiacs, and we'll go 2002 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am.
Ooh, yeah.
So my whole reasoning, I've never driven one. This is one of the few on my list that I've never driven. Um, but it just looks so freaking cool, and it's the closest thing to the Batmobile that you can buy as a street legal production vehicle. And so
Mm.
that's sold me ever since the first saw it.
Those things are sharp, and it's hard to believe that that's 20-year-old car now.
Yeah.
Man, they're just gorgeous. And that's the one thing. I'm not gonna lie, Pontiac shows up a couple times for me because I've always been a big Pontiac fan, and I still kind of hurts whenever it's like, hey, they GM just killed the brand so many years ago, but they were the sharpest looking cars. Uh, for years it was that
Oh,
way.
absolutely. That's why I don't understand why Pontiac got cut off, but Buick got to stay.
I thought about that too, and my guess is it had to do with overall sales, who they were trying to appeal to. I think at the time Ford had really cornered the market for the sporty vehicles. Mustangs were still selling like hotcakes. That'd be my guess. And it was just kind of like, hey, we have this additional brand, we're just gonna kind of write it off. Uh, which is a shame. And they had and I think other thing too with them is, Pontiac had some flops, there, especially in the years, just a few years before they kind of went away. And it wasn't to say it was like Pontiac's fault necessarily, but just like with the Aztec,
Ugh.
um, you know, uh, I'd hate
See,
to
and
see
one that
if that was
almost
on
made my
anyone's top
list.
10 list.
That almost made my list. The Pontiac Aztec. I
Yeah, I thought
really,
so. Yeah.
yeah. No. Honestly, though, there was another Pontiac that didn't make either of my lists that really I should have put on there was the Fiero.
Oh
But
yeah. See, and that's another one too. But it's funny, those cars, for as I think as much flack as they've gotten over the years, um, those things have kind of like they're cult favorites, I guess, and people do a lot of mods to them. It's interesting.
I saw one with an intercooler sticking up out of it like a freaking shark fin down here. I
That's
swear to
awesome.
God, it's driving a street. I'm like, why do they have a radiator strapped to the top? I know that's an intercooler. Holy hell. What the hell? Like, and I'm looking for some kind of like directional fin on the back to see if it turns when they steer it, like it blew my mind that they had done that.
Yeah, that's but yeah, no. So look, we're gonna say Pontiac. I'll throw one of mine out there in my garage, and dude, look, I'm not gonna lie. A few of these are gonna be pretty much in everyone's, especially if you're of a certain age. I had to go with the '77 Pontiac Trans Am, black and gold Firebird on the hood. We all know why.
Oh, absolutely.
Smokey and the Bandit. I mean,
That's a classic.
no one's cooler than Burt Reynolds driving that thing.
That's right.
Um, Dude, I've always loved that car. My parents were big Smokey and the Bandit fans, and my goodness, what and it's funny too because my boss and I go back and forth on this one because this is one of our favorite cars of all time. Except he likes the white one with the bluebird on the hood, and yeah, I've got to go classic Smokey. And I will say this: I thought this was the coolest thing. Um, when I was driving home from work one day, there was a tractor trailer in front of me, and he had it. It wasn't a painting, but it was a canvas that was over the trailer, and in the back you had the Trans Am. Like it looked like the back part of the tractor trailer was open, but it
Mhm.
really wasn't because it was just a canvas with like this painting on it.
Okay.
And then you go around to the side, and it sure enough was from the movie. So it's really cool. It was really neat looking. But no,
That's awesome.
definitely in mind. So what do you have next?
So my next one, staying in the Pontiacs, is going to be a 2008 Pontiac Grand Prix GXP.
Ooh, nice.
So so with Grand Prix, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of experience with them. You know, I had one as a rental when my Cavalier broke down. One of the many times that my Cavalier broke down. Um, and then driving around in yours, that's really my only experience. But I've just for some reason that vehicle, I've just always loved it. And so, again, this is one where I went with the very last year that it was made, and I went the top trim level because I want all the horses. Um, and so, that's where I ended up with it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I had the '97 coupe. It was the GT. So it had like this extra styling package with the spoiler. Mine was like the Eagles Hunter Green.
Yeah.
We actually bought it from the guy who was a police officer in, gosh, I can't remember now. Somewhere in Gloucester County. I just can't remember where. I want to say like Harrison Township, but I don't know, whatever. So got it from him. I was able to run that thing, like basically give it 75,000 more miles. Problem with mine was the steering rack went out. And it's such an insane amount of money to fix it at the time that I had to junk it. It was crazy. I felt awful for doing it, but I had no choice because it was one of those where the repair was more than what the car was worth,
Right.
and I had another vehicle on the coming to me. But it's funny you say that because my next one was the '09 G8 GXP.
Okay.
And mainly, I had the '09 G8 GT. The difference being the GXP model had a few more horses. That was up to 415, whereas the GT sat at like 360 ish. And the GXP was manual. Um, so you don't see too many of those. I think I've maybe seen like one or two out in the wild. Um, but yeah, I had that car, just not that version of it, and loved it. Absolutely loved it, and I still adore it. It's funny to think back. I remember when those cars came out, and I had it as my wallpaper on my computer. And I remember, it's like fast forward several years, I was able to buy one, and it was really cool, because I never thought that I would live, buy something that's like to me, it was like buying a Lamborghini,
Right. Right.
because I never was like, I'll never be able to afford anything like this. And sure enough, they were down in price at the time, and I had it for several years and loved it. But yeah, no. So my next one definitely I would do same car I already had, but the next trim level up. So, and
Right.
that'll do it for the Pontiacs on me. So,
Same here. Same here.
sorry, what's your
So
next one?
my next one, this is where I'm going to go. I've got a couple. So this is going to be back to back Mitsubishis.
All right.
So first one is going to be a 2005 Mitsubishi Eclipse GTS. So do you remember
Yes.
that body style?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah. And that's sharp too. The I just like to call those the clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Yes.
nice, man.
So I got to drive one of those. I was trying to buy it, and I didn't end up doing it, but I really enjoyed that vehicle. That's one that was really cool, and just the body styling. And this was the last year they made that body style. This was the top trim line. Um, so even though like the next model year, that body style, which was the last true like Eclipse to me, because I don't count this crossover that they have out now. Um, it was just too bubbly. It was too much of a round. The back end was really rounded. Um, it definitely got faster in that they pumped a lot more horsepower into those engines in that style. But I just no man. For me, it's that I think it was like 96 to 2005 body style
Yeah, no,
was
I know
what.
what you're saying too, because those '06 ones and above were more akin to me like a 350Z.
Right.
of that same time frame. It's
Right.
very similar style. I think the thing that made the '05s cool to me, and this will kind of segue into what I was getting to, my next one. You had the lines or the kind of the body down the side, on the '05.
Right. Right.
So you had a little bit more definition, which was one of the reasons why my next one was the '96 3000 GT.
Get out.
That
So my next one is the 2000 3000 GT, the VR4.
was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly why, because I drove a 96 3000 GT.
Yeah,
I had
nice.
I got to drive one up at I had taken my dad's me and Ryan Barney took my dad's Durango up to my uncle's dealership to get worked on, and he was like, "Hey, well, while you guys are waiting for that to get done, why don't you take this thing out for a spin?" And I'm like, "What is it?" He goes, "Just go hit the horn and just go find it on the lot. I think you're gonna like it." And so me and Ryan Barney driving this freaking, it was a 6 speed too. So we're driving this 6 speed 3000 GT through Pennsylvania Dutch country, scaring horses and stuff. And then I get back and I'm in my little 5 speed Daytona, and I'm on 45 in front of Hollywood Diner, and I
Mm-hmm.
go to shift from fifth into sixth and shift downshift into fourth by accident because I forget that I'm not in the 6 speed anymore. Holy hell. What a mess. But I'm sorry. I completely took over I blew up your spot. Go, go, go.
No, 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 no. That's one of the first cars I just remember, came out when I was in high school, and man, I just those things, and I particularly put down the '96 3000 GT Spider. It's got to be red, right? I mean, you can't. I don't know. To me, none of the other colors existed for that car. But I was thinking about that, and you made reference to this with the Dodge Daytona, and I didn't do my due diligence and really doing my notes for this, but there was a Dodge version of this vehicle,
Yeah. Yeah, it was the
and
stealth.
that's right, it was Stealth. Okay, and I didn't look it up, and I couldn't remember what it was, but I knew there was existent one.
Yeah.
Um,
So same car, some minor differences to the headlights and taillights, and obviously the badging was different. But that was in that weird time frame where Mitsubishi and Dodge were sharing some platforms. So like the Laser, the Daytona, and the Eclipse at one point, and then the Eagle Talon were all the same
right,
car.
right.
Um, but the yeah, dude, the 3000 GT, you know about the VR4, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, yep.
So the reason I put the VR4 on there was because of the four-wheel steering, and I just
Right.
thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, oh my god, all four wheels turn. So
Yeah,
that's
no, I stuck with I went certain ones. I thought about doing that too. I did with some of them, like the Taurus SHO, where I went with the last release. But some of them I went with like sentimental,
yeah,
because
I get that.
it was like like this one, like that was the first one I remember coming out, right, that I really fell in love with, that I would have a poster on the wall type car, that wasn't a Ferrari Lamborghini type car.
Right,
Um,
right.
so that was definitely one there. So I got that one down. What do you have?
So then we'll go on to my next one because that was literally my next one was the 3000 GT. So we're gonna go to the one and only Toyota that makes my list, and this is gonna be a 2014 Toyota FJ Cruiser TRD.
Ooh, nice. You gotta talk to Kyler. He had like an '09 FJ for long time.
Nice, dude. And see, that's the thing. Like, so I don't know what it is really about it. It just, it looks like it kind of looks like a Jeep on steroids to me. And that really appeals to me. And so these ones, the TRDs in particular, this was the last year they made it. The TRD was like, um, it was exclusive. Like it had all kinds of like all the bells and whistles, everything you could have, all the trail stuff, everything. So like if you want to take this thing off road, this was the one to do it. I actually looked in not too long ago, looked in to get one, but they're like Jeep Wranglers. They are skyrocketing in price. Like
Oh yes.
you can't find a good one for any kind of decent price at this point.
No, so and I was going to say that it's funny. Like I said, Kyler had the '09 one. He's got a kind of a funny story about it being stolen and then getting it back, but that's neither here nor there. But he one night inadvertently invited me to this FJ Cruiser group on Facebook, and for some odd reason, I joined it. And so every periodically, I get these things that showed like people trying to sell them, and over time, they just got more expensive and more expensive. And it was like one of the first vehicles I'd seen. Like this is within the last 2 or 3 years, they were getting to be where there was 200,000 miles on them, and they were still trying to get 20, 25 grand out of it.
Oh
And it
yeah.
was like, good Lord, like what is this thing, And it was really interesting to see, the, I guess the fans or the owners behind, and all the different really cool things you could do with them. So no, I totally get it, man. It's such a sweet looking vehicle. Like I've always liked them. So no, I'm on it for that one with you.
All right. What's your next one?
All right, I'm gonna go a little weird here, just to kind of get this out of the way and to kind of switch it up a little bit. I went with the 1966 Amphicar Model 770, preferably
Nice.
in the color teal.
Um, I may have seen one of those driving down here the other day.
That is one of the coolest to me. For you're especially talking about the time frame. I believe those Amphicars were made for about 8 to 10 years tops in the 1960s. Um, those things, dude. What's there to say? You can drive it in water. It's a boat and a car.
Yeah.
Uh, it really doesn't. I mean, to me, like that is so far ahead of its time. I know it's a novelty. I get it, you know, but just the technology and the engineering that it took to do that, man, it's just awesome. I always thought they were so cool. I'd love to have them, but God, could you imagine what one of those things go for these days?
Oh yeah. See, that's the, like I don't know. I don't know if it was an actual amphicar that I saw, but there was definitely some kind of similar vehicle where it was able to it was definitely able to be a boat or a car driving on the road in front of me probably 2 3 months ago down here.
No kidding. Yeah, and look, it's not like a new concept necessarily. It was a new concept for the fact I think then where it was something that you could buy as a quote unquote civilian.
Right.
Because you had for a lot of you had the duck boats, right? You
Mhm.
had those vehicles, which they're the same concept. I mean, drive it and drive right in the water and go. But to me, I was more like on this one, the aesthetics and the fact that it was a little car and the fact that it was sold to the general public, but not obviously in mass, but
Right, right.
yeah. So yeah, had to go for a little weird one there. But what do you got?
So speaking of weird, we'll hit the one and only Nissan on my list, which this is going to be a 2017 Nissan Juke SL.
All right, all right. That's
So so
yeah.
I had a Juke at one time for like 9 days. It was the one and only car, knock wood, that I've ever gotten into an accident in, and it got totaled after 9 days. Um, Definitely never, when I first saw them, first heard of them, never thought that I'd ever drive one because my first initial thoughts upon seeing one were, who the hell is buying that? I used to think they looked like potatoes, but they actually it grew on me, obviously, because I ended up buying one. Um, and I'll tell you what, man, they're quick, they're nimble, they're fun to drive. My only major complaint with them is that the insides were like super cheap plasticky stuff.
Right.
Um, but aside from that, like, but the actual function of driving the vehicle and the exterior aesthetics and everything were fantastic. I liked how high up it sat. It was like it was almost like a perfect like crossover. I super enjoyed it, and so it will definitely have a spot in my garage.
Yeah, and you make a good point there too. Crossovers are fun. they're very versatile. It still drives like a car, but you can actually do stuff with it.
Right.
You know, it can haul stuff. It can, and unfortunately, a lot of them just aren't that aesthetically pleasing. They're very boring vehicles, so or unique, and that's definitely one of them, because that's one of those few cars on the road that no matter what you're going to look at. Now you might absolutely hate it,
Right.
but then you might also love it. And I think that's where that's at with that kind of car is like, there's really not a whole lot of in between on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. You either love it or you hate it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
there is no maybe about it.
No, it's it's definitely I don't know it's conversation inducing, and it's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. It's just it is what it is. It's different. I'm kind of same way with you. I went the first time I ever seeing one. I was like, I don't know. This I wouldn't know. And kind of the more you see him, it's like, hey, I'm kind of it's all right. It's weird. It's a weird thing with that car.
Right.
But speaking of Nissan, we'll stay there. That was my next one, but not a juke. I went 96 Nissan Skyline GTR. Um, I went this route in the sense of have you looked and seen what like the more recent ones look like
Don't
for the
they
Skyline?
look basically like every other generic
Yeah,
like Japanese car?
yeah, they're very boring. Like there's just nothing to it. But you go back to the mid '90s, and now you got some sharp looking vehicles. And I believe that's still the car that takes 25 years for you to be able to get it over here. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, the JDMs takes 25 years to become, I guess, a classic or an antique or whatever, and it allows you to bring it over.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. So now we're at a point where they could be shipping over what 97 models,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So that's to me, if you think about that's kind of interesting, where they're just now being able to ship over those models that came out when we were in high school.
So are you so have you signed up to get yours yet?
Pipe dreams, man.
I mean, the kids don't really need college funds, right?
No, no, nor do I need a house. No, no,
Yeah,
we don't, we
yeah.
don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, you don't listen, Danielle's totally not going to divorce you if you buy one of those.
No, no. Hey, guess what? I brought home a Nissan Skyline.
It's like, oh, so that's your new home. Have a good life.
Exactly. Yeah, no. Actually, you know what? I was I'm trying to find a way to slide this in, but man, I so desperately want to say, you know what? My next car is a 1989 Ford Escort GT, preferably two-toned.
Oh my God. Jesus. All right, Ewan.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, had to give him a shout out. Hope you're
Yep.
listening. All
He's
right,
not.
man. No.
He's not.
What's your next one?
All right, so this is the only Mazda that made the list proper. We talked about the Mazda Speed 3 earlier. This is going to be a 2012 RX-8 R3. So another vehicle. This is one of the few that I've never driven that's on my list. Oh, I shouldn't say that because there's a couple on here that I haven't. Most of the list I haven't driven after. I drove some of them, but not this particular thing. And it's just kind of it's a rotary engine. Will we ever solve the mystery of how a rotary engine works? I don't think we ever will. Um, just super cool looking. The only experience I can say that I really ever have with them is I knew some friends in high school that had RX-7s, and
Mm-hmm.
then in I think X-Men 2, uh, Wolverine stole Cyclopses or Cyclops stole Wolverines, one or the other. So that's the only way I've ever seen inside an RX-8. They look super cool, and if I'm building a garage and I can just pick and choose what I want, I'm throwing it in there.
Yeah, those things are cool just on the outside too, and the rotary engine aside, which is like you said, kind of a whole other conversation. No, just very neat, and uh, it's here thing too. The RX series has been around for a long time, so yeah, you have a lot of choices there you can go after. So you said 2012, right?
Yeah, that was I believe that was the last year they made them in the States.
Did they? Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good. Very good. No, I'm definitely a fan of those, and uh, I'll use that to seg into um, my next one, 91 Acura NSX.
Ooh.
And so I remember a guy came into Pittman Sunoco, and he had that car. It was red, and it was the first time in my life that, and I'm going to use this in quotes, that I learned that there were affordable supercars. Even though this thing wasn't going to be, you know, you know, beat a Ferrari or whatever, so to
Right.
speak, in a race. However, it certainly looked like one. And I remember him saying that at the time, because this was like maybe it was probably 8, 9 years old at the time, and he paid like 25 grand for it or something. But it certainly did not look like that, you know, like that much money spent for like that kind of car, because it did. It looked like a supercar. Those
Right.
things were was beautiful. And I think they still look cool
Oh,
all these years
absolutely.
later. I remember there's a couple people in South Jersey that had them. This guy had one. There's a red one and a yellow one that kind of made its rounds. There's a yellow one that still goes around here. I don't know what year it is because they for a lot of years they look very similar. And I just went 91 sticks in my head because that was the specific one that this guy had. So yeah, that was definitely up there for me. That's got to go in the garage.
Yeah, I remember seeing that driving around town, and yeah, dude, I no complaints from me.
Yeah, that's just a sharp looking and again from like I said, affordable supercar. That's how I'll frame that one. So what you got next?
All right, so next for me is going to be I'm gonna get my two Fords out of the way. So the first one's going to be a 2014 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500.
Ooh,
So this was the last, like, you know how so the Mustang body has evolved just like every other car, and it's hit times when it looks retro, where it looks like it's futuristic, where it looks like it's retro but trying to be futuristic, where it looks like it's trying to be futuristic but also retro. This one hit that sweet spot for me where it was retro but not but new enough, like sleek enough. And this was what I really like, and it's going to sound so stupid, but if I ever get a Mustang, it's got to have this. It's got to have the fog lights built into the grill of the main grill.
mm-hmm.
And this was the last year where, like, after in the 2015 model year, they started with the more rounded back, and I don't like that. Just like with the Eclipse, I can't deal with it. So this to me is the epitome of a modern Mustang, and so that's why it makes my list.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's funny you said Ford. I'm looking through, and the only one I had mentioned honorably was the Ford Taurus SHO. I don't even have any just Ford branded ones now in on my list at all. So I was going to go there, but I do have Mercury's. So we'll,
Okay,
we'll we'll slide that way because
I'm gonna
same
say
thing.
a Marauder.
You got that right. 2004
Nice,
Mercury Marauder
nice.
Black, and look, those things, dude, they're awesome. And it's funny too because of what it's based off of. It's a Grand Marquis.
Right,
It's
right.
not like it's a not like it's anything fancy. We're not talking about a race car here, but my goodness, those things just you black them all out and you black out badging. You do some different things with it, dude. That's a sharp vehicle all day
Oh,
long,
absolutely. Yeah,
all day long.
there was a dude. I think he was in the hydraulic shop on McGuire that was in my unit, and he had one, and it was just, it was so sick, so
Yeah,
sick.
they're sweet. I can't remember. I mean, I've seen. I think the thing that really, and I remember Danielle and I going to the auto show in Philly, and I remember that kind of being a front and center thing. And it was just cool, just a sharp car, and unfortunately, it's only made for what a couple of years.
Yeah, it wasn't long. It didn't have a long production.
No, no. So anyway, that's always up there for me. What do you got next?
So my last Ford is going to be a 2022 Ford Raptor R. So kind of cheating on it. It's the F-150 Raptor. It hasn't come out yet, but it's coming out when it does get released. It's been seen out in the wild with its camo on. Um, but the actual model is supposed to be released later this year. It's going to have the V8 out of the Shelby GT 500, clocking in
Mm.
at between 750 and 760 horsepower.
Which is just ridiculous for a truck.
Right. So of course that has to be in the garage. I
Dude,
mean, who doesn't need that?
those Raptors are so awesome. I look, I drive my dailies, my 16 Colorado Z71, which is it's got a couple packages on it, and every time I see one of those Raptors, I'm like, man, it's just it's crazy because it's like it reminds me of what I'm driving, but like on a whole nother level. But obviously it's bigger engine. It has hell that the name Raptor on the especially on the back of it, it just looks so
Right.
cool. Um, yeah, no, dude, I'm a big fan of those too. It's uh it's crazy that they're like it's funny too because like the price of vehicles overall has gone up quite drastically, but those things, my God, they're just ungodly expensive.
Oh yeah. Well, just wait because the Bronco version of it's coming out.
Are you serious? There's a
Yeah.
Raptor Bronco?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
So imagine how much that's going to be.
Huh. That's crazy. I didn't realize they were doing one of those.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
honestly, it's funny you say that too. That I forgot you drove a Colorado because that almost made my list too.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. So that'll easily slide into my next one. And it's funny too because you said 2022, and I went with 2022's Chevy Silverado, but either the custom Trail Boss Midnight, which is basically what my truck is. My truck is a combo Trail Boss Midnight, or a Redline. Are you familiar with the red lines on the GM cars?
It, the last time I remember hearing Redline was on a Saturn.
Yeah, so they've kept the red line editions up, and you'll see them occasionally. I know you've seen them. They're generally all blacked out, and you'll see like different things like the brakes might be red, or there's some kind of red like line somewhere on it,
Okay.
just kind of denotes it. But like everything's blacked out. The badging's all blacked out. They make like red line Equinoxes. Um, you know, traverses that are red lines. They make a lot of the different
Hmm.
ones that are red line, but they make a red line Silverado. And I think the things now that I've seen more recently, though, the red lines that there are different paint jobs on them. So like, pretty certain like the one I was looking at yesterday was like a pearl white red line, but it still had a lot of black accents to it. Um, but yeah, those Trail Boss ones. That's what my truck is. My truck is a basically the model for my truck. There's two main customs that you could get. One, you could either get the Trail Boss or the Midnight Edition. And the guy or the person I should say, I don't know who it was, that had the vehicle before me got both, and that's why I fell in love with it because it was all blacked out, and then it had like kind of for the size of a truck anyway, it had the beefier off road stuff, which it's cool because it's like it's made it handy whenever I'm doing things that aren't on the road. Not that I go off roading with it, but
Right.
I can, so so that, yeah, definitely. I would love the bigger version of what I have now, of course, newer, so that's why that's why it's in there for me. Cause Silverado is the next step up for me. But here's the thing. I'm not ready to go 80 grand on one of those. Cause that's about what they're going for these days.
Good God.
It's insane especially for like those kind of editions,
Right.
it's insane. But all right, what do you got?
So next on mine this is a nostalgia one, and this is more or less so I could hand it off to someone. 1979 Chevy Corvette Stingray.
Oh, nice.
So this one would be it'd be in my garage, and then I would sign the title over to my dad because this is the vehicle he had when my mom got pregnant with me, and he ended up having to sell it to get their first house.
No kidding.
So it's always been a car that I've liked. I've loved the looks of it. I think it's one of the coolest looking, you know, modern, if you want to call it modern Corvettes. You know, it's not the fastest, but it's just cool looking. And so that's my reasoning for it.
Dude, it's so funny too. And I think as we mentioned these, we've been able to kind of bounce back and forth so perfectly because my next one is a 1972 Chevy C10 Cheyenne pickup. Preferably two-tone where the white's down the middle on the sides.
Mhm.
Um, Dad had one of them.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
based on talking to him, because he's had a lot of cars over the years, and I thought for a second I would love to just get his list again because he can rattle them off like crazy. Based on what I can tell, it was sold not too long before I was born. So kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Funny that we can go back and forth, but man, I've loved those trucks. I remember having a model like one of those what was it Revel that made those plastic
yeah, yeah,
models you
yeah.
could build. Yeah, I had one of the of that truck, and man, it is so cool. I just love those trucks. They're awesome. I saw one recently on the road traveling back from New Jersey, and just so sharp. It's but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely cool. All right,
Well, and
man.
that's what Dad was actually looking at buying one of them not too long ago. One of the Corvettes. He saw one on Facebook Marketplace. He's like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna try and get it." And then I had to break it to him that it was a manual, and he's perfectly capable of driving manual, but with his back and with his knees and everything, he just would prefer to not get a
Yeah,
manual in case something goes wrong. And so when I told him it was manual, he was like, "Oh man," and so he didn't go forward with it. But yeah, that's so my next one, and this is the only one on my list where I don't have a specific year and trim level to it.
okay,
And so it's just a Jeep Wrangler. Doesn't matter what year, just needs to be a Wrangler. And I would prefer one that was more modern, so it had Bluetooth and all that stuff, like the convenience crap, but like just a Jeep Wrangler. And this was another one that my dad had when I was younger. Um, and I remember driving down to Ocean City in it and thinking it was just the coolest thing ever with the top off and the doors off and everything. And so a Jeep Wrangler is always up there. I just, if money was no object, yeah, I'd absolutely have one. But my only issue with it is uh, it's hard for me to spend money on something that I feel like they really haven't put a whole heck of a lot of effort into bringing I guess making the quality as good as it could be for what they charge. I feel like you're paying more for the name, and that's simply because the it hasn't really changed
right,
engine wise. Mechanically, the thing has not really changed since the 60s. And I feel like by now it could get either more horsepower out of the engine or better gas mileage. But as it stands, it gets terrible gas mileage and it doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of horsepower. So I feel like for what it is, if I was building my dream garage, cool, it's in there. But that's what's kept me from the price for what you get plus the price itself because they're ridiculously expensive at this point
right,
is what's
yeah.
kept me from getting one.
Have you? I know you said you've ridden one. Have you drove one before?
Yeah, I've actually so when my car broke down a few years ago, my buddy Joel was up in Jersey and his Jeep was down here, so he let me drive his Jeep around. And back home I drove Mark's Jeep a couple times when we were out and inebriated and I was the sober one, so I got to drive the Jeep. Um, but yeah, so I've driven them quite a bit, and there's some quirks to driving them, but overall, I still find it enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's funny because I almost threw a Wrangler down here too on mine, but um, I drove Matt Hills a few times when he had his. And the thing I loved about driving those things, man, they're just so easy to drive.
Yeah,
Short wheelbase, you don't have a whole lot to worry about. Um, but on the flip side of that, you have the Jeep Wrangler pickup trucks.
ugh,
uh, yeah, it's some kind of abomination to something.
yeah. I'm not a
Um,
fan of the Gladiator.
no, no. But now it's funny though. My dad actually has an '86 Jeep Comanche.
Yeah,
Which is funny because it has the GM ignition.
Nice.
Yeah, but he has that, and it's a manual, has no air conditioning in it. He actually, within the last few years, Nona, my stepmom, had it repainted, and then got the new stickers on it. So it still says sport truck on the side, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of cool, but it's got 40,000 miles on it. Um, so yeah, and that was actually my cousin's, his cousin's truck, and when he passed away, Dad bought it. So yeah, no, it's cool, man. Those Jeeps, man, I love them to death. We had a Grand Cherokee. It was an '03, and to this day, it was by far the best thing I ever drove in the snow. Um, like the Jeeps are just great for that. I mean, they,
Oh yeah.
great off-road vehicles. Um, just they're awesome. Then there's some other models like I've always liked, and I've always liked the Jeep Commander. I always thought that was kind of cool. It's very boxy, but to me, I always thought it was like a neat looking vehicle, kind of like a Land Rover, or what's
Yeah.
that boxy Mercedes that looks like that?
Oh, the G-Wagon thing.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
something like that.
Well,
All
that's
right.
and as blasphemous as what I'm about to say is, I did always like I think my dad had a 93 Cherokee,
Hmm.
and it was that boxy style. And dude, I really like driving that thing. Really
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
the dude, they can do no wrong. I've always liked those, and really aesthetically, the Wrangler pickup truck is the worst. But again, I'm sure it's pretty darn functional because it's still a pickup truck and it's also a Jeep.
Right.
So, um, all right. My next one, I'll go. I'm gonna I'll stay in the realm of, um, you know what? I'll go this route. I'll go the '91 GMC Cyclone pickup.
Okay.
I believe that's the one that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Clint Eastwood is on record for saying that that was his daily driver. I, I,
Ooh.
I'm almost certain. He was on the Tonight Show or something many years ago with Leno, and I think he said that, which would make sense because Leno's the big car nut. Uh, but yeah, no, I've always liked those trucks, and I have one particular story about that model truck. There was a guy in Gloucester County. He was older. This was 20 years ago, and he was older then, so I'm certain he's probably not around anymore. But he had one of these, and he had the engine board out. He had all these crazy things done to it because he had it as a race truck. And I kid you not, for the time, the quarter mile times that this thing's supposed, I never saw it, race. I never verified that. But this thing would come into the auto shop, or he would come to the auto shop as other vehicles, and he would tell us about this thing. And the times that he was given for like these quarter miles on this thing was like ungodly. Like it would be ungodly now. It was just because it was a truck. Those things were built fast in the first place, and it weigh a whole lot. And then he did a whole lot of work to the engine, and it was like, my God, that's awesome. And I just thought it was cool because it's a nice looking truck too. And
Oh yeah. And I just looked it up to fact check you there. And he you were close. So he drove the follow-up. He drove the GMC Typhoon.
Typhoon, okay, okay, that's right.
Yeah, it was actually on Fallon.
Okay, all right, all right. So I knew I wasn't far off. Again,
Yeah.
my mind goes in different places, but I probably connected like the Cyclone story from my past work stuff, and then
But yeah, I mean, dude, the bottom line, it's badass, whether it's the Cyclone or the Typhoon, like either or, you're looking at a beast of a truck,
so yeah,
for what it
definitely.
is.
I looks
So
like on mine I've got four left. What about you?
I have four left as well.
All right. So what are you on now? We're gonna hit our top three, although they're not necessarily our top three, but might be a reason why we've saved them for the end.
Yeah, so this is where we're gonna get into the my let's see. So I've got three Dodges left and a Plymouth slash Chrysler. And I
All right.
probably just gave that one away. So I'll go with that one. So I do not care who actually, what the nameplate said. It will always to me be a Plymouth Prowler. Even though the 2002 model, which is what I picked, was done under Chrysler. So, this one is purely based on looks. It was not a great vehicle. Um, it's probably one of the reasons is it never came in manual, even though it looked like it absolutely should have only come in manual.
Right.
Um, but it just looked super cool to me. You can blame it for the coming of the PT Cruiser because I feel like the PT Cruiser kind of like fell out of it. Um, but which honestly, if we're gonna be honest, and I'll get all of the hate mail for this. You can send it right to me. Uh, I don't think the PT Cruiser was as bad of a vehicle as people think. Um,
Yeah, I'm not. Look, I look, as much as people dump on that, it it's versatile. Um, and look, there's some redeeming qualities there. There's a lot of other cars I could tell you that have no redeeming qualities. There's at least
right.
something there with the PT Cruiser.
Yeah. And so back to the actual. Well, the only thing I'll say is Richie may disagree since the wheel fell off of his once when he was driving. Um, but that's another story for another day. We can let him tell that story on the air sometime. But back to the Prowler. So the Prowler was, it looked like a hot rod, but it was definitely modern. It actually, I don't know if you knew this or not. Did you know it came? You could buy a trailer that was basically like the back half of a Prowler.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember seeing the ad for that.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It was quirky. It was again, it falls under the same stylings as like the SSR, where it's retro but with a modern twist. And I thought it looked really cool. No, it wasn't the fastest car on the planet, but if you see that thing driving down the street, you're gonna turn and look at it.
Right, right. No, you're not wrong. I remember again. I've already mentioned the Revel models. I had a '97 Prowler Revel model in that typical color, which is like that magenta purple color.
Yeah, Prowler purple.
Um, yep. So I had that model. I look. That was so cool when that came out. Again, like you said, not a great car, but aesthetically, yeah, it's a head turner. And if that was your game, like to me, that was akin to now like the people that see like those oh, what are they called? Um those Trex things, those crazy,
Oh, um, slingshots.
yeah, those things. To me, the Prowler when that came out, because it was such a head turner, that was like our version of the slingshot, basically, and completely different. I'm not saying that they're even remotely similar, but as far as like your eyes always going toward it,
Right.
that's what that was like. So, yeah, kids, if you're listening, the Prowler was like that for us when we were in our youth. So,
Back in the good old days.
yeah. So yeah, especially so now. Funny, back in the good old days. Now I'm going to tell you, give away my last four here. The newest of these is 1968.
Okay.
And I'll just go with that one. 1968 Oldsmobile 442. You just can't go wrong. I've loved the 442 since I was in high school. I hope to someday find some magic pot of money, um, get the 442, and just I don't know. I don't even need to go fast. I just think that that's just such an iconic, like, man, it it just hits everything for me.
Right.
Cool car, giant engine, and old school GM brand. Um, and I love it. I've always liked that car, and I think it was because like it was the first time I knew that a car could possibly get like you know, like it actually had a good engine, but wasn't necessarily like a very well known as like a household thing. Like it wasn't a Mustang, it wasn't a Camaro, it wasn't a Chevelle. You know what I mean? It had its own like following. And man, I've just loved those cars ever since I was like about 16. So that's going to be on any car list I'll till the day I die. So yeah, that's it for me, man. I love those cars.
All right. I'm with it. I that didn't make my list, but it very well could have. That a Chevelle could have as well. I'm gonna see. I kind of went the opposite way as you. So I've got 2002, 2000, and actually a 2022 on my list.
Nice.
So
Okay, cool. That's cool, man. Hey, at least we're keeping it different here.
yeah. So my next one and my last three are Dodges. So I actually I made it through the list pretty domestic, which I'm happy about, because even the Mitsubishis were produced in conjunction with Dodge or Chrysler, and the same with even the what is it? What one was it? Mazda. Most of the Mazdas are built in Michigan anyway. So
And I want
um,
to I'm going to point this out too. Between you and me doing this, look, I think this is a good part to say this with what you just said, staying domestic. Look, you and I did not talk about any of this stuff beforehand.
no,
I'm gonna make that point clear. And you have already said that the rest of your list is Dodges. The rest of my list is American. Um, we did not mention a single Lamborghini,
no.
Ferrari, Porsche, Mercedes Benz, Aston Martin, Bentley. I, look, the list goes on. We
Yeah,
didn't mention any of that
no.
because, yeah, you and I were on the same page with this one.
And I will say that Lamborghini Countach, which I can never pronounce correctly,
The
it all
Countach.
Countach almost made the list because I won a framed poster of one at a carnival one time, and so it hung on my wall for a while, and I almost put it on there, but no, I'm not. That just didn't. It, in my dream garage, it doesn't have a place,
Yeah.
and it's
And I'll be
not out of like, oh, I want to stay domestic with all these, pal. No, this was just literally like when I went down my list, like these were the cars that stuck out to me.
yeah,
And
and I don't know that that's actually how you pronounce it. It's just I made that
I thought, dude, no,
up.
I thought that that's how you pronounced it for the longest time. And then I'm like, wait, but that can't be right, right?
It
I don't
sounds
know how the hell
Italian.
you say it. It does
Sounds
sound,
Guntash. It sounds Italian.
Guntash. Nah,
Yeah,
it
it sounds
sounds
Italian.
German, dude.
It does. Let's see. Okay. All right, we're gonna Google it here
All
before we
right,
get
yeah, yeah,
ourselves in trouble. How
yeah.
to
Maybe
pronounce?
we're cursing.
Let's see how
We
to
might be saying,
pronounce Countach. All right, let's see.
yeah.
Let's see if yeah, no, I was right.
Okay.
Sounds like Countach. Yeah, cool.
Okay. All right, good. So
Nice.
we're not like, you know,
Eh,
going off the rails there.
no, no, no,
All right.
no. All right. So you got three Dodges. What do you got?
So first one's going to be we'll go with the 2002, and it's going to be a 2002 Dodge Viper GTS.
Mm,
So like I said
hmm
on my honorable mentions, I was going to go, I really like that original body style, but it, this is the one if I'm throwing one that's in my garage that is something that I'll be driving around in, I want air conditioning. And this is the one. This is my second favorite iteration based on looks alone. Um, and then once you add in all the modern amenities, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, I think the 92, the original, was the best looking one, but I've got to have the modern, or at least modern for this time period stuff.
Yeah,
So,
and look, the cool thing with the Viper, I don't see him very often, but when I do see one, that's still again that's another head turner. It's like, oh my god,
oh
it's a
yeah,
Viper.
yeah.
It's every time.
We have a couple of them around here, but it's still, it's very rare to see them out and about.
Yeah, I know of one around here that I've seen maybe two or three times, but that's it. Like I couldn't tell you what year it was or just one of those things.
Well,
It's
the problem
that's
is towards the end of their run, they all started to look the same.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they started to look like every other like fast car. So it got to the point where what's the point of even owning it because you can't tell what it is.
You're right, right. No, you're exactly right. Like it's one of those that like it's still really unique, but I do like to see some kind of changes over, to something, kind of keep it
Right.
interesting.
It looked like a bar of soap by the end.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it still had that if you could see it dead on from the front and you had the chance to actually look at it, you could make out, oh, okay, that's supposed to be a Viper. But when you look at the first two bodies that it had, the 92 to 95 and then the I can't remember when the second generation came out, but it looked unique. It looked different from every other car that you were going to see on the road. And so
right.
those two styles are definitely my favorite. Um, and so that's why that one's there.
Gotcha. Very cool. Good pick, man. So yeah, going the other way with me because, like I said, all mine are older here. 1966 Cadillac Eldorado convertible.
Nice.
So just giant vehicle, giant convertible. It gangster car. The only Eldorado I ever got to drive was a '97, so completely different. um, but man, dude, those Eldorados, the Cadillacs, two doors. Gosh, I just love them. I always thought they're just such a sharp car and not just the 1966 one, but for a lot of years, it's a sharp looking vehicle for what it was. And yeah, that's up there for me. I just think it's slick looking. It's just has that big boat feel to it, but it's also convertible, and it's that's definitely a cruiser. You're not sitting there racing anybody with that thing. You're sitting there listening to a little Snoop and enjoying the life.
Right. Laid back.
That's right. So, all right, man, we're down to our final two here.
Final two. So I'm going to throw out one and you're going to laugh. Um, you're either going to laugh or you're going to be like, what the hell is wrong with you? And so my 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 second to last is going to be a 2000 Dodge Neon. No, I'm kidding. 2000 Dodge Durango RT.
Nice. All right.
So this is still the original Durango body style. Basically looked like a Dodge Dakota with a full body cab. Um, I don't remember exactly what year my parents had. I want to say it was somewhere between like 97 and 99. Um, but theirs was super, I loved driving around. I drove around a lot. This is obviously the RT, so it's got the supercharged Magnum V8. It's got all the bells and whistles. There's obviously didn't have all of that, but driving it without all that stuff was still enjoyable, and I really liked the vehicle and the look of it and everything. So I can't imagine it gets worse with the better engine.
Right, right. No, dude, those are. I'm not gonna laugh at you because those. You're right. You're spot on. They're very sharp. You know, I I've always liked those. And again, not every time it's like they turn the head or anything, but you get in those upper trim models on the Durangos, dude. I'm on it. Like those are nice. They're really nice. Like dude, I'm not hating that. Like that's a good one.
All right, so
Very
what you got?
all right. Last I got two more here. So I'm gonna go with this one next. And this is funny. I had to cheat a bit because I probably looked this up before, but I never actually knew the real name of the car. I always knew it as just what they would consider a mercury lead sled, or as I've done my research on it now, apparently there was more cars that were just called lead sleds. I didn't know that, but so I always assumed this in my head for years. A 1950 Mercury lead sled. It's actually called a Mercury 8. That's
Okay.
yeah. I didn't know that. Now I do. I learned something. But then I was like, well, obviously, dude, it's got to be two door. So 1950 Mercury 8 Coupe, or I would have actually known it as the lead sled. Man, dude, you can't do those cars no wrong. That's just a gangster car all day long. It's ridiculous. It's just has like, I don't know, to me that like really cool, you know, obviously early 50s styling. But the thing I think the that I've liked about it is that you have the hot rodders that just chop them down, and they make like the roof a lot shorter, and they just do different things with it, and they just look so cool. Like it's that I don't know, it just hits like so many different like things for me. And being a Mercury, I'm on it. But no, it's always been one of my favorites. And I want to say that I'm trying to think. Um, Let me look this up real quick. Um, Similarly, and again, this was not a Mercury 8, but this will kind of frame it for just trying to paint a picture here. If you're familiar with Back to the Future, Biff Tannen drove a 46 Ford Coupe. It's a very similar looking car.
Okay.
So yeah, to me the Mercury 8's a lot slicker. So that's, but yeah, very similar in that regard. But all right, man, you're on your last one. What do you got?
All right. So this one, what I went with is basically an upgraded version of what I drive now. So my final entry on the list is a 2022 Dodge Challenger SRT Superstock. So I got, for my 41st birthday, I decided I was going to buy myself a midlife crisis present, and I bought a 2019 Dodge Challenger. Um, it's only got the base model 3.6 liter V6, but I absolutely love it. And so I could have gone with the V8, but I sit in car line a lot to pick up Peyton from school, and I didn't want to waste my gas just sitting there. It's Florida; it's too hot to not sit with the air conditioning on. So I went with the V6. Tried to be a little bit modest with it, but if money was no issue for the vehicle and the gas consumption, I would definitely go with this 800 plus horsepower beast. It's my car is, I would put it as this is the best car that I've ever owned. It's the most fun to drive. It's the best looking car I've ever owned. And I would imagine, again, just like with the Durango RT going up to the top trim level, I can't imagine it's going to make the car worse.
Right. No, no. Yeah. Dude, those are sharp. Man, yeah, you and I have talked about these quite a bit. Obviously, you have a Challenger. The, the great thing for me was you have basically a classic Dodge line that was able to be reborn, and they're just so cool. They were cool the first time around, man. They're cool again. They did a great job with bringing that back, because again, you mentioned this before with like the perfect balance of modern and retro. And that's what these cars are. You know,
Right.
I mean, it hit it, nails it. And I don't know that any other car at this current time that even comes close. Nothing.
Right.
They
I mean,
that's
even the
that.
Charger, like, look, I bounced back and forth between getting a Charger and a Challenger. So I was going from the Taurus. It was nice to have the four doors, especially with Peyton and with my dog Lily, to be able to put them in the back and all that stuff. But the Challenger versus the Charger, aesthetically, there's no contest.
No.
And, not to say that the Charger's a bad vehicle because it's awesome looking. I like it a lot. And it was definitely, there was definitely part of me was like, oh, you know what? That's probably it's the more practical decision. You should probably go with that. But when it comes down to it, man, just the visceral feeling you get from looking at the two cars, Challenger wins every time.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's a it's a great car, man, and it's crazy too because you have all the sorts of different trims and things they've done with it, and I think the Hellcat's very well known, and you know we you and I have talked about just different the different charges and challenges, and then especially when you're looking for yours, and
Yeah.
man, just looking at every other one is like, dude, it is beautiful, like whether it was purple or blue or whatever, like it didn't matter. It's cool looking, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas any other car, like sometimes the paint job's what makes it.
Right.
You know, I would have no issue owning pretty much any color of the rainbow on that one, just because it's so cool looking.
Yeah, and it's so since you did mention color, that that particular car would be plum crazy. So
There
it
you
would
go.
definitely be purple. Purple is called plum crazy. There's also a darker purple, which is called hell raisin. So it might be it'd be a toss up between the two, but and hell raisin just because who the hell doesn't want a car called hell raisin?
Hell,
That's
raisin,
freaking
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Like, so no, but it would be plum crazy. And yeah, so what is your final car on the list?
All right, my last one's more sentimental. The first car that I actually purchased was a 1963 Mercury Comet Custom. Still have it. Sits at my dad's. It's no longer roadworthy, but it probably could be with a bit of work. Um, and the funny thing is that my mom, her first car that she had was a 1966 Mercury Comet Caliente. So it's kind of funny that the first car that I purchased and the first car that my mom purchased was, you know, very close to the same car. So I had to throw in my ultimate one. I would love the 64 Mercury Comet Cyclone. So it's the more sportier version of the Comet.
Okay.
Just a sweet again. Look, I could have been like any other person and thrown at. I want the 64 Impala. We all want that one. No, I want the 64 Comet Cyclone, and mainly because look, I have a Comet now. That was my mom's first car, and to me, like this is just it's something that not everyone's going to go after. Um, it I don't know, just like I said, resonates to me as in a sense of just fond memories of the one that I have. Not that we did a whole lot with it, but it's still kind of just like, yeah, I bought that when I was like 16, and I've always liked that line, and I thought about it too. I was like, man, some of the Ford Falcon ones and the different models that they had of those, I kind of went back and forth with that, and in that same year time frame genre whatever with those types of cars. Um, and there's a couple of others that I kind of hemmed and hawed around too. But for me, top of the food chain, yeah, if I could ever get my hands on one of those, and 64 doesn't have to be. I just know that there wasn't that many years of Comet Cyclones, but that's certainly number one for me. Even if I had to put these in order, which we didn't, that would be my number one. And sentimentally,
And I think that's a great capper to our podcast here tonight. I think that's an awesome choice for every reason. Um, and maybe we'll find one of them sitting
that'd be
around somewhere.
awesome. All right, man, it's been fun.
Absolutely. So oh, before we go, I got to ask you, have you seen anything, heard anything from Microsoft on Big Beefy Shootie Boys?
I've been checking my inbox every day, just seeing if there's any kind of development in when it might be released. Um, Nothing yet,
Okay. All
but
right. Well,
it's but
I'm
it's in the
still waiting
works.
too. Yes, it is in the works. I'm still
It's in the
waiting
works.
to. I've got Microsoft's ear, so I'm working with them and trying to get them to let me know exactly what's going on. So we gotta keep up the writing campaign, guys. The letter writing campaign, the carrier pigeon campaign, the smoke signal campaign. Um, it's starting to work. We're starting to wear them down. We got Danhausen into AEW, and now we're gonna get Big Beefy Shooty Boys released the way it should be with
I
the butthole
swear,
cut.
knowing the way that the world's going, that it's probably going to be the number one selling game in about 10 years.
Absolutely, and
And
it'll
I'm
be
not
the
joking. And we're going to get no profit from it whatsoever
no,
because it'll be
no,
like we came
not
up with this completely on our own.
right. We're not going to get it. It's not going to happen. So what's going to happen is they're going to release their version of it, and it's not going to be as good as the one that we have talked about and everything. And there's going to be a hashtag campaign like release the Snyder cut, release the butthole cut, and it's going to be release the Noise Brigade cut
That's right.
of Big Beefy Shooty Boys.
That's right.
So, but All right. Well, until next time, we have been the Noise Brigade. Check us out on BigBeefyShootieBois.com, DoubleWideCoffin.com, Twitter, and Facebook, and soon YouTube. Until next time, have a good one.